Redditors who ducked around and found out. What did you find and do you regret it? I used to think I was a tough guy and talked a lot of shit about how I could kick my roommates as if I wanted to. He politely challenged me to a boxing match. I took 2 hits but didn't get a serious one in. I went down. In retrospect, he was way cooler about it than he should have been. I was talking a lot of shit and he brought out boxing gloves and even some foam helmet things. I went down like a bitch lol. I firmly believe that every shit talker needs a good ass kicking once in a while because that shit humbled me and I'm a better man for it. If you're out there, Isaac, it's Jibs and I'm still sorry for talking shit lol. When I was 14 I had a friend that was a track athlete. This kid was seriously the fastest person I've seen in real life. It had been raining for 3 days and we were mostly stuck inside and bored. When the rain finally stopped I called him and we met up at the canal in between our houses. It was our usual meeting spot as it was halfway. He had a bright idea that we should cross the canal, that was at max capacity and moving very quickly, by jumping from one concrete footing to the next. Mind you, these were about 10 feet apart but very wide. I was not interested in that. Truth is that I was scared but didn't want to show it. He decided to jump from one to the next. He barely made it and declared how easy it was. At this point the foolish pride kicks in and I make a run for it. I was comically short of making it across. So short that I hit face first into his side of the concrete footing and broke my nose. What's worse is that now I was in rapidly moving floodwater with my eyes blurry from breaking my nose. This track athlete buddy hopped on his bike and pedaled from that bridge to the next one and beat me there. I was desperately trying to grab onto the shore and pull myself up. But it was so wet and muddy that all I did was slow myself down a bit. He climbed down the embankment by the next set of concrete footings and started yelling at me to grab his hand. I didn't. He pulled me out. He absolutely saved my life that day. But also my bike, that was left on the other bridge, was stolen by the time we got back to it. Kept dating a girl legit my whole family told me to get rid of. She emotionally abused me for years, cheated on me after my dad died and probably was during and still, 8 years later cries about how I'm her abuser and blah blah blah. If your whole family gives you an intervention, listen. Archery hunting on about 300 acres of hardwoods with about 150 acres cattle pasture. I had crossed over the electric barbed wire 100 times, usually just by placing my backpack or something similar on the fence to push it down enough for me to step over. Once I lazily used my bow to push it down and the limb slipped while my crotch was dead nuts over the electric fence. Despite multiple layers on, that fence fried my ass and nuts so bad my kidneys and bladder felt it. I ducked around and found out. I ran for Congress thinking I could change the world. It nearly ruined my life. Took years to recover professionally and emotionally. 17 years old trying to impress a girl by jumping off a relatively high, maybe 50-foot, cliff to the sea. Lots of guys did it and was telling me it's fun. I jumped feet first. Broke my right shin bone and calcaneus, on impact. Sharp pain up to my hips. Can't paddle with my leg. I got pulled up by one of the guys and spent summer in a cast. Yes, I regretted it. I ran track and cross country in college. Not exactly amazing or top dog, but very solid, ran D1, all that. The real reason I was good is just that I was very resilient. I could basically run a shitload of mileage without getting hurt. Naturally, that made me better at longer distances. 5k, 10k, and longer were my strengths. So the year after I graduated undergrad, I trained to try and hit the US Olympic marathon trial standard. I went entirely too hard. It's not just that I was running 110+ mile weeks at 22, but I was doing a lot of the mileage way too fast and wasn't taking proper rest. And to boot, most people who run high mileage run 2-3 times per day, but I insisted on doing as few two-a-days as possible. Anyhow, I did hit the trial standard, but majorly ducked up my leg doing it. That was my first major injury as an athlete, and it was the one that ended my running career. I 100% regret it. Ducked around thinking I was invincible, Found out I'm definitely not. On a construction site, I didn't want to be a baby and take the stairs down the 3 flights to get to the can. Figured I could just climb down the scaffolding like a real man. The first step onto the metal piping was fine. The dew on the second step caused my foot to slip. I fell, hitting my chin on the way down, smashing my shin about halfway down, and bounced off something hard just as hit the ground, luckily feet first. I also learned that there was another actual working bathroom on the 2nd floor. My friend and I had been playing out on the ice for hours, literally 6+ hours. We decided at that point we're gonna start walking home. She was on the other side and almost off the ice and I heard the crack. Didn't even have time to react. I went under. To this day I don't know how I survived. I have no memory of anything past looking up at the ice when I was underwater. According to my friend, I somehow crawled out. She stripped me down and I walked the like 2 miles home barefoot and in my underwear. I was around 9 and playing in a creek after heavy rains, and there was a whirlpool, maybe 2 feet across at maximum. We had been warned multiple times about not playing around whirlpools, but I had always imagined some huge 20-foot wide thing. My older brother would hold my arm, and I could reach my hand right into the center of it. I had him let go, took one more step, and found myself swirling around underwater thinking, welp, I'm dead. Ducked around in college, dropped out and ended up as a ranger machine gunner in Afghanistan within seriously 10 months. I was always warned to not play with fireworks as a kid. My dad had set up mortar shells in the vertical tubes that launched them, and went inside to grab his drink. I thought it would be a good idea to light the mortar shell while he was gone. I didn't realize how short the fuse was, and it went off a lot quicker than I had expected, with my face inches away from the outside edge of the tube. It launched so close to my face that my eyebrows and front of my hair were singed off. Safe to say that I learned my lesson after having to appear like that in school the next week. Ducked around with a crazy girl. Found out when she broke into my apartment and kidnapped my cat. Then again when she popped out of my walk-in closet at 2 AM. And again when she whipped me like a slave with a vacuum cord after breaking down my apartment door. On that last one, man, I was wishing for the days when she only left 200+ texts or waited to ambush me in the parking lot at work. Really didn't want to pay an old bill from 2020 and was told to try and have it dismissed. Filed and got called to court a week later. The judge and lawyer were talking about their last fishing trip together while I waited. I looked at my now ex-wife's phone and she was 100% in a relationship with another dude while I was at work. Jokes on her though. I got promoted and now making twice my salary at the time, and I'm about to be engaged to the most amazing woman. I grew up racing motocross. My dad rode as well and was pretty good. As I got into my teens, I started to catch up to him in speed. One day while we were out at a practice day, I kept trying to pass him in not so respectful ways. Like I would try to make him fall over in corners and stuff. I finally passed him, and as I approach the next corner, my dad is magically right next to me. Before I could even react, he slams his rear tire into my front tire and makes me crash. It didn't hurt physically, but it sure hit the ego. When I got back to the truck, my dad had a big grin on his face. You mess with the bull, you get the horns. Passed a slower vehicle on the shoulder in my younger years. I was being hasty and just thought duck it. Like 20 minutes later I was getting gas and they had followed me, gotten out and threatened to beat my ass. Screaming about how unsafe what I did was, filming me and everything. Dude was jacked. I was mostly confused like who they were, but eventually it clicked. Bit of an overreaction on their part, but yeah, you shouldn't pass people on the shoulder. Also found out road rage is real and people will indeed follow you lol. I got married young when everybody told me not to. I learned that there's a good reason they were telling me not to. I also learned that you can never judge a marriage from the outside looking in. Everyone was shocked that I left him, but I had been struggling for a long time and had even contemplated taking my own life just to escape how toxic it was. I was raised believing it was only okay to leave someone if they cheat on you or beat you. I then learned abuse isn't always physical. Yes, I regret it, lol. Eater, just in case it wasn't clear, I regret the marriage, not the divorce. The divorce saved my life. The marriage is what almost ended it. 6-year-old me had a bag with some matches. I was out in the desert, Arizona, circa 1974, with my 4-year-old brother. I tried to light a stick on fire that I had put in an empty soda can. When it didn't light, I lit a small patch of dried grass on fire to get the stick started. The grass fire got out of control, fast. I tried smacking it with the cloth back, but it went up like it had gasoline poured on it. We ran home and I told my brother to tell dad I started a fire, and I went and hid. Shortly, my dad asked, "Where's sandpaper pants?" and I crawled out from under his bed where I had been hiding and said, "Here I am." I got a spanking. The fire was put out and didn't spread very much. I ducked around and found out. I was super drunk having a chill night outside with some friends. My BFF's fiance brought out fancy cigars. He said, "Don't inhale. Only taste, you'll throw up if you do." Well, I was Billy Badass and inhaled anyways. It was also my first time ever smoking a cigar, so I low-key didn't even know what he meant by taste. Let's just say he was right, lol. That was a quick lesson. I called HR about my boss making impregnation jokes about me and not stopping touching me when I told him over and over. I had 3 witnesses, me asking him to not touch me in writing, and even a video of my boss making sexual jokes about me. All of which HR refused to admit because this is really just a he said she said problem. They then threatened me with legal actions for filming my boss harassing me at work, since I wasn't supposed to film anything. I was let go less than a week after writing HR. Not fired, just a reduction in force that only affected me. I don't have the money to fight a huge legal battle against a big tech company. Remember, HR is not there to protect you, only to protect the company. In 2002 I was in the snowboard park at Breckenridge. First park run of the day, should have taken it slow to check the conditions and get a feel for the height of the tabletops. Instead, I decided to go at full speed. Hit the first table, which was massive, and launched way too high. I didn't lose control in the air, but I cleared the landing by a long shot and it was ice pack. Landed in the flats and broke both of my heels. The calcaneus split down the middle. Had major reconstructive surgery and couldn't walk for 6 months. Got addicted to Percocet. More or less okay today, but I have chronic pain, limited mobility, and basically never walked the same. It stuck with my stability both physically and mentally, and the rest of my body has issues like in my spine and posture for the way it healed to compensate. I was fostering an injured orphan raccoon who recovered well and was fat and happy. Until she wasn't. She became lethargic and stopped eating within a few weeks, and we decided euthanasia was the best option. As a veterinary nurse, I thought it best to send her to the lab for testing and a necropsy to see what happened. She came back rabies positive, and at the time I had not been vaccinated for rabies. So not only did I run the risk of having rabies, but my family did as well, as we all had contact with her. I was then terminated from my job of over 4 years as management in a large veterinary hospital because supposedly I put the staff in danger by having a rabid raccoon. A few $1,000s later and rounds of shots for my entire family, and I'm still not over the trauma, and at the end of the day I still don't have my baby raccoon that I dearly loved. No amount of love in the world, from both sides of a relationship, can make up for a lack of personal motivation or self-discipline. I was about 9 years old and trying to impress the boy that lived next door to my grandma's house. I had recently watched The Karate Kid and decided to show him my super cool karate kick. I inadvertently did a backflip, landed on my back with my arm under me and knocked myself out for several seconds. My arm was broken and I had to wear a cast that whole summer. My BF and I bought one of those electric fly swatters, like the tennis racket looking kind. And when it first arrived we didn't even think it worked. We were touching it and nothing happened. The next day I was putting it away and thought, oh haha, it doesn't work, let me touch it, and shocked the shit out of myself. Like I lit my hand up and it hurt for like 2 days. Declined a job offer because I thought I could do better. Well, I did. But it took 1.5 years. Just the thought of the amount of money I could have earned saved in 1.5 years even with that low-balling offer. Not to mention career progression. No sheet. There I was, passenger while my wife is driving. We pull out into traffic. Guy half-mile down the road decides to floor it. He is on our ass at once, honking, flipping us off and whatnot. My wife pulls into the median. He flies by and gives the bring it on hand signal. We pull in behind him and he slams on the brakes. We go around, and I say to pull off the road so he can just go on. He almost hits us. We all jump out. He grabs my wife, and it's on like Donkey Kong. After getting over the trucks, I pull him off my wife and proceed to beat him down in the middle of the road. My wife pulls me off, and we move on. Head to the store we need to go to and the ducker is there all bloody, and wanting to do it again. One more punch and he is out. Call the cops and they never show up. After an hour we just move on. A good buddy of mine loves to test the limits of his lucks in doing daily things. There's just too much crazy stuffs that he did, but I only remember a few. Like one night while talking on the phone, walking in a dark field, he came across a cobra. Dude thought it was a good idea to kick it away so it will slither away. It did slither away and enforced his mindset that he can get away with anything. Another instance is sneaking out of the college and going to an isolated beach. This beach is particularly dangerous because it doesn't gradually get deeper, but it drops several meters inside just after a few steps on the water. A lot of people died here from drowning, and he thought he could go for a lap and came back safely. He did. Now, there was this final examination where he decides to cheat. This paper is easy, and only worth 1 credit for the semester. Halfway through the exams, he got caught. And the spiral of sheets started. He was barred for taking any exams after that, had to redo an entire semester. His scholarship revoked, and he was sent back. Got into fight with his family and GF about his. GF left him, family stopped supporting him. Bro got depressed, tried to save money by going to Australia to work as fruit picker until he can rejoin the college. Worked well for 6 months there, before he decides to go to a beach with his new mates and do a flip in the ocean. He climbed on the back of his friend, proceeded to flip, and head smacked onto the rock beneath, cracked his spine bone at neck area, and the splinter nicked a nerve. Was sent to hospital, lost all motor function from below the neck. Parents nearly went bankrupt from the hospital bills for the surgery and transport back to our country in a specially chartered plane equipped to handle patients like him. It has been 10 years. He's still in a wheelchair, and has regained enough motor movement to use his phone unassisted. He can barely talk a stroke, so texting is the only way he can communicate now. Went snowboarding with some friends when I was 16. I was really good and had been doing it for about 6 years and it was their first or second year going. It had rained a lot the night before, they blew snow, and then they groomed. The slopes were just ducking ice. I knew it was a bad idea as soon as I got off the lift but talked myself out of it and went down. Halfway down I popped out of the crust and couldn't slow down. Caught a chunk of ice and went sailing through the air, and knocked myself out immediately. Apparently I ragdolled down the ducking mountain, and ended up being in the ICU for over a week. Bed rest at home, literally sitting in a bedpan, for 3 more weeks and then a walker for a few weeks. Ended up breaking ribs, terrible head injury, cut off the top 20%ish of my left kidney, lacerated my spleen in 2 places, broke ribs, and collapsed a lung. Didn't do any external damage which was crazy,